What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these beautiful, delicious, scratch-made mustard beer cheese, and of course these beautiful homemade pretzels that I cooked on my pellet grill. Coming up, this is my new pellet grill. Got this courtesy from my friends at Camp Chef. This is the new Woodwind Pro. And I gotta say, it seems like it's a bit higher quality than my last pellet grill, which is very exciting because it didn't arrive to my house broken, which is a great sign. And as you know, I'm not really a big fan of pellet grills, and that's probably because I've got a giant offset and a mini Chud box and a Weber kettle sitting around, so I'm not the target demographic, but I am determined to find a way to use this thing where it'll make sense in my arsenal. And as you can tell, I've been using it a lot over the last few weeks, and it's growing on me. I'm sure you've seen these all over the internet, but pellets go in there, smoke barrels out the back, you got a ton of cooking space, and they've also got this little slot right there where you can throw wood chips in and get some extra smoke. And part of the reason I don't really like pellet grills is because I'm always using it to try and replace the offset, which never works out well because it just doesn't have the same type of combustion, it doesn't have as much smoke, and quite frankly, it's just not as fun to use. But lately I've been trying to find a way that this thing is better than the offset, and one of those things is high heat. When cranked all the way up, this pellet grill goes up to about 500 degrees, just like my internal oven, and uses a lot less fuel than the offset. A couple years back I made pretzels on my offset, and getting that thing up to 450, 500 degrees and maintaining that temperature was a bit of a challenge and took an absurd amount of wood. So in that regard, I think the pellet grill is a great choice for high temp cooking. And if there's a little smoke being added, I'm not going to complain about it. So that being said, today we're going to see if this pellet grill is good for baking some absolutely fantastic pretzels, and it is going to be delicious. Before we get started making our pretzels, let's go ahead and make some mustard, because I love a good mustard with my pretzel. So what I've got here is 1 cup of yellow mustard seeds that I added 1 Oktoberfest beer to last night, brought it up to a quick boil, then popped a lid on it and let it sit overnight to really let these mustard seeds soften up, hydrate, and absorb all that beer. Into the blender we go. We're also going in with some apple cider vinegar, some brown sugar, some turmeric, some dry mustard powder, and a little bit of granulated garlic, and a big fat pinch of salt. And just get that all blended up. And if it's too thick, you can always add a little bit more beer. And there we have it, some beautiful yellow mustard. And be sure to taste this for seasoning, and know that just like a lot of homemade mustards, this is gonna start out really strong and really pungent, and it'll mellow over the next few days. So if it's too strong for you, just give it a couple of days, and it should be tasting beautiful. And I was gonna use some black mustard seeds along with the yellow ones, but I couldn't find any black mustard seeds, so yellow it is. Next up, we're making beer cheese. Starting with some Tillamook sharp cheddar. Just gonna cut it into some strips. Now, there are 2 types of beer cheese that you're gonna come across. One is kind of your hot, cheesy queso situation, which is what I was gonna make, but then I decided to go with more of a cheese spread, more of the Kentucky style of beer cheese. And for that, we're just gonna send it through the old shredder attachment of our food processor. Beautiful. And the reason I'm going for the cheese spread over the hot cheese dip is because, well, I just made a hot cheese dip in last week's nacho episode, so if you wanted to make that, I would just use that exact recipe but replace the milk with beer. And also, this Kentucky beer cheese is very similar to Obststah, which is a traditional German dip for pretzels. So now I've got the normal spiral cutter in there. We're gonna spice this cheese up with some granulated garlic, some dry yellow mustard powder, some paprika, some cayenne, some Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of Texas Pete hot sauce. And get that blended up. And then we're gonna start slowly streaming in some beer. Ah, beautiful. Be sure to scrape it down off the sides periodically throughout the blending process. Depending on how much beer you add is gonna determine how thick you want this. And I think that is looking just about perfect. Looking good. Gonna pop this into the fridge because this is traditionally served chilled. Next up, let's get our pretzels made, which luckily I got started last night. Into a stand mixer, I'm going in with some warm water, followed by some barley malt syrup. Oh, that's some thick stuff. Followed by our yeast. Oh, Jesus. Followed by our salt and our bread flour. And just let that come together. And once that dough has come together, we're gonna go in with our butter, which is just some softened, unsalted butter. Boop. And now let that come together and knead for about 4 or 5 minutes until nice and soft and supple. Oh, beautiful. And there we have it, a beautiful dough for some beautiful pretzels. Next up, we're gonna divide this into some 100-gram dough balls. and give it the old roly-poly. Flatten them out, poke out whatever air has built up, and then we're gonna roll it seam side up into a nice little log. That's just gonna help us out in the rolling out of the pretzel formation. Throw our little turd right there and continue on with the rest. And once all of our beautiful little dough logs are formed up, probably shouldn't have stacked them so close together. All good. We're gonna just roll these out into some pretzel shapes. Oh yeah, taper those ends. Very satisfying. It's like a giant dough snake. Stay away from my boot. And once you got your nice little rope, make yourself a U, cross it over, cross the X one more time, and bring it down for the perfect pretzel shape. Now, we repeat. And you can really control how thick and fluffy your pretzel is at this stage. You know, if you want some really nice crispy arms on your pretzel, you can make sure these ends get real nice and thin. Or if you want some extra puffy, fluffy, bagel-esque pretzels, you can keep them nice and thick. But if you're new to baking, I highly recommend starting with some pretzels. They are super easy to make, pretty forgiving dough. And you don't have to make full pretzels. You can also make little bread sticks or knots or nuggets, which is what we're gonna do with the next few. Beautiful looking pretzel. We're just gonna tie it in a knot. Nothing to it. We'll do a double knot on this one. Why not? We'll see how that bakes up. We'll just make some nuggets. And there we have it, all of our various pretzel shapes. Now, if you're making these at home, you could very easily let these rise for the next 30, 45 minutes, drop them in the Lye Bath, pop them in the oven, and you'd be good to go. But according to my research, all the best bakeries pop these in the fridge for an overnight cold fermentation. So that's what we're gonna do today. Did someone call the pretzel police? So I'm gonna cover these with some greased plastic wrap, pop them in my fridge, and we will come back tomorrow. One overnight rest later, we've got some beautiful looking pretzels, nice and firm to the touch. Gotta love that. But before we throw these on the old pellet grill, we gotta get our lye solution ready. Starting with some water. This is just some room temp water. And then we're gonna go in with some sodium hydroxide, which is food grade lye. And this stuff is very caustic. It's got a pH of like 11 or something, where baking soda is more around the 9 region. So you really wanna be careful with this stuff. You don't wanna get it in your eyes or on your skin because it's super alkaline and could burn you. So you gotta be careful with this stuff and use at your own risk. There are also plenty of recipes online for how to use baking soda for this very same treatment if you don't wanna mess around with the sodium hydroxide. But if you really wanna get that perfect browning on the outside that a pretzel is known for, you gotta get the heavy duty stuff. So simply enough, water and some sodium hydroxide. Just wanna get that nicely mixed up until it's completely dissolved. I believe this is around a 4% lye to water ratio, but I will have all the exact amounts and ingredients in the description box down below for all the recipes I've made so far. Simply enough, we're just gonna take our dough and drop it into the lye solution, making sure to wear gloves. And it doesn't need to be in here long, just a solid soak, maybe 5-10 seconds. Out it comes, right back onto the rack here. And can't forget all of our little nuggets here. And then when everything is still nice and damp, that's when we're gonna go ahead and add all of our toppings. So I got some pretzel salt here. I also got some everything bagel seasoning, because what doesn't sound good about that? Do a few of these little guys as well. Then just some straight up poppy seeds. I think that's a nice look. But yeah, get creative, do whatever you want. We'll do some sesame seeds on these guys, why not? Oh yeah, looking good to me. So we got this bad boy fired up to its highest setting, which right now is just over 500 degrees, which is exactly what we're looking for. Pretzels love to be cooked hot and fast. If you're doing this in your home oven, anywhere between 450 and 500 is what you're looking for. So I think it's time we throw them in. We're gonna go on the top rack in an effort to not scorch the bottom. Huh, what a fit. Should only take about 15-20 minutes. We're about 6-7 minutes into this cook. Ooh, just gonna flip these trays around for even cooking. Trying to move as quickly as possible here, because we don't want to lose a bunch of heat. Looking good though. I gotta say, this is a pretty laid back cook. You know, didn't have to fire up a pit, didn't have to get a big fire started, just click the button. And also, whenever I get my oven fired up this hot, it heats up my entire house. So being able to do this outside is just real nice. About 15 minutes into this cook, and these are starting to look real nice. I'm gonna go through and pull some of these little guys out of here, because they are probably gonna start overcooking pretty soon here. They're looking lovely. Ooh. In retrospect, I probably should have put all the little nubbins on one tray and all the big boys on another next time. We'll leave some of these on to get extra dark. These are looking good. Nothing wrong with that. And just like that, 20 minutes is up, and I'm calling these done. Looking beautiful. I'm gonna let these cool on a wire rack until they're eating temp, and then we'll dive on in. I mean, would you just look at it, folks? What a beautiful pile. Tell me you don't want to dive into this right now. And these cute little nuggets down here. Oh, I think it's time we gave these Blitzen a try. I gotta say, folks, that is a pretty nice looking pretzel right there. Turns out the pellet cooker does a good job. Bottoms aren't burnt, still nice and soft. I can't help myself. Oh, that is beautiful. Perfect cook on that. Love it. Nice, chewy interior. We've got that beautiful darkening on the outside. That's what the Lye does, by the way. It just really encourages that browning, which is why pretzels are so much darker than any other type of bread you're gonna find. Love it. Nice and chewy, nice and salty. It's got that classic pretzel taste. I gotta say though, these guys are the real winner here. Bring a bunch of these to a party. They're a lot easier to make too. You don't have to rope them out or fold them or anything like that. Nice and squishy, but still nice and pretzel-y. Just make a big basket, bring a tub of beer cheese. Perfect game day snack. Speaking of which, ooh, that firmed up a bit. Looks good to me. Oh, that is good. That's a great combination of flavors. It starts out immediately with beer, which is awesome. It goes great with pretzels. Then the sharpness of that cheddar really creeps in, and it's definitely got some kick on the back end too. All that cayenne and hot sauce, that's some good stuff. Got ourselves one of our little pretzel knots here. Let's go ahead and cut this guy open, shall we? Just a beautiful dough. Nice and dense the way a pretzel should be, but still pillowy soft. Love it. We'll go true German style on this one. Just split it open, hit it with some butter. Top that with some chives. Shout out to Andong. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, it's so good. I love a good pretzel. I'll tell you what, the chives are a nice touch. Let's give this mustard a try, shall we? You gotta say, I did not expect that to come out looking exactly like your classic yellow mustard, but not mad about it. Ooh, that's really good. It's got a kick to it. Definitely got some sweetness to it too. That brown sugar is definitely coming through. Not bad at all. Got a little bit of that maltiness from the beer in there. It's still a little bit on the bitter side. Probably because I made it today. Like I mentioned, this will mellow itself out in the fridge. Got a kick to it too. That mustard kick. Very similar to a horseradish kick. And it's not a Chuds BBQ pretzel video until this little guy comes out. How cute. Love it. Gotta love pretzel day. This cheese, though, that's a recipe that's staying around. I must say, if you are going to go through the effort of making your own pretzels, I highly recommend making all the different variants here, you know? Just because of the bake time, the thickness of the dough really determines how crunchy or how fluffy it's going to be. For these pretzels, these thin arms are real crunchy, which is delicious. And then these outsides are nice and puffy. These little bites are kind of right in that sweet spot where they're still pillowy, but they got a nice tear to them. And the little pretzel knots were definitely the tallest and definitely the most bready. So, depending on what you like, really determines on how much you let them rise or how thick you make them. But if you do it like this, everyone's happy. And I tell you, who's showing up to the football game with some freshly baked pretzels? Come on, might as well be you. Well, now that we know that the pellet grill can in fact bake, without imparting any smoky flavor, by the way, I would never know. Question is, what are we gonna bake next? Because like I said, I plan on putting that pellet grill through its paces. And again, if you wanna see a video on my current thoughts on this pellet grill and what I like to cook on it, let me know in the comments below and I will gladly make that video. But in the meantime, I'm gonna drink this beer while dipping my pretzels in some beer mustard and some beer cheese. It's my new happy place. But before I go into a carb-induced coma, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic pretzels on your pellet grill. Again, if you've never made pretzels before, I highly recommend giving it a try. And if you're scared of using lye, there are ways around it. And last time I made these, I skipped the overnight fermentation in the fridge step, and I really didn't notice much of a difference this time, so I'll probably be skipping that in the future. And if you're new to baking, this is a real easy recipe, and everybody loves a good pretzel. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. If there's something you'd like to see me cook, feel free to drop a comment down below. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!